911.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Chesterfield Emergency Service. They're in good hands here.
We begin on July 26, 1989, near Chico, California, where 17-year-old Sue Miller and a group of high school friends were spending a hot summer day on the Sacramento River.
As long as I've lived here, it's been the thing to tube down Sacramento, and I had never done it before. I don't think most any of us had.
So where are the sandwiches, you guys? They're coming.
At first I was a little leery because I'd heard a lot of horror stories about going down the river. You had to be careful because of the snags, but the water was so calm, it didn't seem like, anything could hurt you.
All right, who wants a...
We had brought an ice chest along to bring Cokes and stuff in, and it kept floating away, and it was just a bother. People were just, everyone go get the ice chest. So Reed decided he'd just loosely tie the rope around his ankle just to keep the ice chest there, and we wouldn't have to worry about it floating away.
15-year-old Reed Taylor, star quarterback of his high school football team, was the only one on an inflatable raft that day.
We had some zinc to put on our face, like red and green, and so Reed started drawing lightning bolts or, just goofing off. He's real fun. We were having a really good time.
Although the air temperature was 105 degrees that day, the water was only 55. Unlike the others, 17-year-old Shelley Carrier had been tubing before.
It took quite a while for everyone to get in because it was so cold. And right when we got in, another girl and I had noticed that there was a snag. And so we said, you need to put your feet in and kick out of the way. Everyone kind of ignored us. It's cold, we don't want to put our feet in.
About a mile upstream was a boat dock and restaurant owned by John Scott. On his own, he patrolled the river, helping boaters and tubers in trouble.
I've lived here all my life, and I know the river, and I know how to operate it. When the river's up high, most of the snags are covered up, and most people float over top of snags, and we don't have a whole lot of problems. But when the water's down low, there's snags everywhere, and it's a nightmare for us and for everybody else out there on the river.
I wanted to...
Heroes. Rescue 911 continues next on Discovery Health Channel.
Reed was on the raft. He really couldn't kick, and there was so much weight I couldn't, kick hard enough to pull us away from the snag. So we basically just headed right for the snag. The current was so strong that it just pulled me right under the snag. And when I came up on their side, my foot was caught in the branches that were under the water. He somehow got my foot loose, stuck me on his raft, pushed me away, and told me he'd be there soon. His back was to me, and It seemed like he was clutching the snag, and I couldn't understand why didn't he just climb onto the snag? Once the river turned, I couldn't see him anymore. And I just kept waiting. I kept looking to see if when he was coming, and he never came.
Cindy Waters was tubing with a friend that day when she heard Reed scream for help.
He didn't say anything till we were right there. And once you get right there, there's nothing you can do because the current just takes you past. He looked horrified. He was in sheer terror. I couldn't climb from the shore to the snag. I had to jump back into the river because of how dense the berry vines were through there. When I was on the snag, I only had one free hand. I'd pulled on the rope to bring him towards me and stuck the rope into my teeth so he wouldn't slip back into the water, and used my free hand to pull up some more, but from his waist to his head, he was still submerged underwater. I was desperate to try to save him, and I started chewing on the rope.
I seen the life go right out of him, and you could see him moving in the current, but it wasn't from him being alive, it was because the water was moving him. I wanted to do whatever I could do to help him, but what I did wasn't good enough. I knew there was nothing I could do to save him. I got sucked back down the stream, past the point of even being able to hang back on to the shore again.
When we continue.
I picked up the rope, I didn't even see anything. And all of a sudden I seen this leg come out.
Leg! Get the rope! Cut the rope! Cody, get a knife!
Tonight, from the very first moment of possibility, get an inside view of the amazing journey each one of us takes to be born. Don't miss the premiere of Conception to Birth, tonight on Discovery Health Channel.
15-year-old Reed Taylor had been trapped underwater for as long as 20 minutes, showing no signs of life. Bystanders along the Sacramento River relayed word of his desperate situation to John Scott, the owner of a nearby boat dock.
We checked the whole river on the way down, but we basically know already where we're going, which snags to look at.
Accompanying John were two of his employees, including Eric Olson, who had never been on a rescue attempt before.
I started looking for somebody above the water, you know, but John had spotted some tubes and there was nobody around, you know. Why are we going over there? He saw an ice chest sticking out by the tree, and he just headed right for it. He kind of knew. I picked up the rope, I didn't even see anything. And all of a sudden I seen this leg come out.
Once that rope's cut, there's no second chance. We either, we get him in the boat or we lose him.
The current was so strong that I almost fell in the water myself. I almost let go of him. The kid couldn't weigh more than 150 pounds, and it took three guys well over 200 pounds to get this kid out. The current was just felt like a magnet.
After being trapped underwater for as long as 25 minutes, Reed was not breathing and had no pulse.
We just started CPR. Once we got started on that procedure, the next thing we thought was get back as fast as that boat could get us back. We radioed back to the landing and told them to call 911 that we have a possible ground victim to have the ambulance meet at our boat launch.
Chico Medic 2, we got a report of a drowning at Scotty's Landing off River Road.
He really didn't seem to be coming through it all. All the water was coming out, but it just kept coming out more and more. It just wouldn't stop. It seemed like he was underwater too long.
By the time Reed's friends reached their truck, they were still unaware of how serious his condition was.
We heard that he was at Scotty's boat landing and they were administering first aid. Oh, first aid. I'm like, phew, he's out of the water. I'm thinking first aid. He got bumped, on the logs and stuff, and everyone's like, oh, cool. He's out. He's okay.
A lot of people were willing to help. It was a really good feeling to see.
I told him, don't let go. I said, we're right here. We're all here helping you. Don't give up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
He didn't look good.
As soon as paramedic Jeff Moore and his partner Carrie Allen arrived, they took over Reed's care.
It took us approximately 8 minutes to get to the scene, which for us is at the upper limits of our response time. We were immediately fraught with a sense of helplessness. This individual, it was reported, may have been down as long as 1 hour.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The patient wasn't breathing. It didn't have a pulse. In fact, we could call him clinically dead. In the back of my mind, I thought, we don't have any hope. And maybe we're even doing this for aesthetic value. Maybe we're doing this because there's a bunch of people around watching us. We got him in the back of the ambulance, and we gave him an advanced airway, instituted an intravenous line, gave him several cardiac medications to stimulate his heart.
Just look, there was nothing there. There was nothing. He was blue. I mean, it just looked like that couldn't be Reed. I mean, not the guy that was painting faces on was, you know. It was hard for me to think that if anything had happened to Reed, he saved my life.
Initially, there was no response. After a battery of medications, which is standard for this absence of cardiac rhythm, we were approximately 6 minutes into the transportation en route to the hospital when one of the rescuers thought she detected a faint pulse. He's down anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour underwater.
Reed was admitted under the care of Dr. Terry Freitas.
He had no blood pressure. He was extremely cold, 14 to 16 degrees below what's considered a normal body temperature. He appeared clinically dead.
With a core body temperature of only 82 degrees, Reed was severely hypothermic. In an effort to slowly raise his body temperature, they administered warm oxygen and circulated warm fluids through his stomach.
We'll do whatever we have to do. Yeah, sounds good, Mary.
While doctors and nurses fought to save Reed's life, his parents, Rocky and Judy Taylor, arrived.
We just tried to talk to him as much as we could, hoping he would open his eyes and come to. But I don't think anybody thought he was going to.
For twin brother Jeremy, the shock was overwhelming.
I tried thinking about Reed not being there, and I couldn't even think about it. I couldn't even imagine that we wouldn't be together.
Around 3 a.m., a nurse brought the Taylor family some news.
I don't think anybody could believe it when she came out and said Reed's opened his eyes. So we all went racing in there, and he was back asleep again. And then she said, Reed, open your eyes. And he did. He just opened his eyes. It was wonderful.
Oh, good. That's the way. You see your mom?
My mom grabbed hold of his hand, and she squeezed her hand. And then, while he was doing this, he kind of rolled his head over, and he just looked at me and gave me the faintest smile. And right then I just knew he's gonna pull through.
After only 4 days in the hospital, Reed was released, showing no ill effects from his near drowning.
The immersion in the cold water, much reduced. The amount of requirements that are needed to sustain life, particularly the brain. But I feel that it was miraculous resuscitation, and if the resurrection was a 10, this was would score about a 9.
Over. I just didn't think it happened. I couldn't believe it, because I didn't remember anything, so it was like it never happened to me.
He doesn't like to talk about the accident, but he can talk about it with me. I think it's mostly because I was there with him.
At the beginning of Reed's sophomore year of high school, his friend Sue Miller went off to college.
Did you get it all?
Yeah. I'm gonna miss him. I mean, he saved my life, and I think there's always gonna be a special feeling there.
Thank you.
1 year later, Reed is quarterback of the football team again. His complete recovery still amazes rescuer John Scott.
It's something that I'll never forget the rest of my life. And when you look at a kid that was lifeless laying on a beach or in the water, and then you look at him, he's breathing, he's up and about, and he's bright-eyed, and he's smiling, and he looks good, you know. That's about the most exciting thing that could ever happen.
I love all those people. I love them all. A special place in heaven for people like that. No doubt about it.
Next.
Next, step inside the command center where the calls for help are answered and meet the real-life heroes who save lives. Stay tuned for another episode of Rescue 911. Next on Discovery Health Channel. Real life, medicine, miracles.